Good morning. Good morning. I always love to hear your bubbling voices every Sunday morning. That's really a treat. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Greater Naples. As we begin this month, where we'll be honoring earth-centered traditions and spiritualities, we acknowledge those who have occupied this land before us. The first peoples, and then the Calusa, and then the Seminole, and the Miccosukee. We honor their histories and their stewardship of the earth. My name is Tony Fisher, and I'm grateful to serve this congregation as minister, and I'm grateful as well to have Patty Bryan as our worship associate this morning.
Thanks, Tony, and good morning. We're so glad that you've joined us, whether you're here in the sanctuary, watching us on Facebook Live at home, or sitting out on our pavilion. Please know that you're always welcome here. We are a welcoming congregation, freely seeking intellectual and spiritual growth. We strive to create a larger community of peace, justice, and love. Here, we learn and grow together and try to live our values out in public. If you're new to our congregation, we're especially grateful that you found us. Our hope is to make you feel welcome and to help you find ways to connect. And now, let's take a deep breath and settle ourselves into this time of worship with the morning's prelude.
From the east comes the sun. It has already circled the earth and looked upon distant lands and faraway peoples. It has passed over mountain ranges and the waters of the seven seas. Its rays have found the floors of rainforest and scorched desert sands. From its lofty arc, it has seen the wonders of great rivers, the flight of hummingbird, the births and deaths of many creatures. It has shone upon laborers in the fields, into the windows of homes and shops and factories. It has beheld proud cities with gleaming towers and also the hovels of the poor. It has been witness to both good and evil, the works of honest men and women, and the conspiracy of the selfish and greedy. It has seen the ruins of flooded valleys, the remnants of shaken buildings, the ashes of burnt landscapes. It has seen flowers planted by refugees at the entrance of emerging villages, the naked soil plowed by survivors, ready to receive the seeds of the future. Now, unsullied from its tireless journey, the sun comes to us, messenger of the morning, harbinger of a new day. Let's join together in the chalice lighting, words you'll see on your screen. As we greet this new day, let us be grateful for the land on which we live, mindful of all the creatures that share it with us, and respectful of the interdependent web of which we are all a part. And let's rise in body or spirit and join in singing our opening hymn, number 1000, in the Teal hymnal, Morning Has Come.
Morning has come, arise and greet the day. Dance with joy and sing a song of gladness. The light of hope here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. Open your dawns, once more the gift is given. Wonder fills this moment shared together. The light of peace here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. Open our eyes to see that life abounds. Open hearts to welcome it among us. The light of love here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home.
Please be seated. Thank you. That hymn and your singing it always sort of gets me going up here. Thank you very much. There's a poem titled Directions written by Billy Collins, one-time poet laureate of the United States, that I've always wanted to find a place for in one of our worship services. Any service about connecting to the natural world, and it just hasn't quite worked yet. And I was excited about bringing it to the service today. And then when Abby and Sean and I were talking about the service, and I shared the poem with them, Abby mentioned something about something she'd read recently that had caused her some disquiet now when she reads poetry or prose about nature. The idea is that attitudes about nature are really very different for people of differing backgrounds and experiences, and not always fully positive. The idea that nature writing often comes from individuals, an individual perspective, and that the ability to go out and spend a good amount of time in nature is something of a privilege, and that those of us who have that ability at least should be mindful of that privilege. So Abby's comment sort of had me take a step back and then pursue the idea down another avenue of thought and research, and I found, much to my surprise, a poem by Nigerian-British poet Inua Ellams, written in response to the Billy Collins poem I just mentioned. So with your indulgence, please, I would like to share both and hope that when I'm done you might understand why I've chosen to read two medium-length poems at the beginning of a service, and perhaps maybe be curious about where the service might be headed after that. So I was, so. And I'll only add by way of introduction that there is within each narrator a desire to teach something that can't be fully taught through intellectual pursuit, something that must be gained and felt in the experience. Directions by Billy Collins. You know the brick path at the back of the house, the one you see from the kitchen window, the one that bends around the far end of the garden where all the yellow primroses are? And you know how if you leave that path and walk into the woods, you come to a heap of rocks, probably pushed down during the horrors of the Ice Age, and a grove of tall hemlocks, dark green now against the light brown fallen leaves? And further on, you know the small footbridge with the broken railing, and if you go beyond there, you arrive at the bottom of Sheep's Head Hill. Well, if you start climbing, and you might have to grab onto a sapling when the going gets steep, you will eventually come to a long stone ridge with a border of pine trees, which is as high as you can go and a good enough place to stop. The best time for this is late afternoon when the sun strobes through the columns of trees as you're hiking up. And when you find an agreeable rock to sit on, you will be able to see the light pouring down into the woods and breaking into the shapes and tones of things. And you'll hear nothing but a sprig of a bird's song or a leafy falling of cone or nut through the trees. And if this is your day, you might even spot a hare or feel the wing beats of geese driving overhead towards some destination. But it's hard to speak of these things, how the voices of light enter the body and begin to recite their stories, how the earth holds us painfully against its breast made of humus and brambles, how we who will soon be gone regard the entities that continue to return greener than ever, spring water flowing through a meadow, and the shadows of clouds passing over the hills and the ground where we stand in the tremble of thought, taking the vast outside into ourselves. Still, let me know before you set out. Come knock on my door, and I will walk with you as far as the garden with one hand on your shoulder. I will even watch after you and not turn back to the house until you disappear into the crowd of maple and ash, heading up toward the hill, piercing the ground with your stick. Directions after Billy Collins by Inua Ellams. You know the wild bushes at the back of the flat? The ones that scrape the kitchen window, the ones that struggle for soil or water and fail where the train tracks scar the ground? And you know how if you leave the bush and walk the stunted land, you come to the crossroads paved just weeks ago, hot tar over the mangled tree roots, and a squad of traffic lights, red-eyed now against the soot-stained fallen leaves? And further on, you know the dilapidated allotments with the broken sheds, and if you go beyond that, you hit the first block of St. Thomas Street Estate. Well, if you enter and ascend, then you might need a running jump over dank puddles into the shaking lift that goes no further than the 4th floor. You will eventually come to a rough rise of stairs that climb without railings to the run-down roof, which is as high as you can go, and a good enough place to stop. The best time is late evening when the moon fights through drifts of fumes as you're walking. And when you find an upturned bin to sit on, you will be able to see the smog pour across the city and blur the shapes and tones of things. And you'll be attacked by the symphony of tires, airplanes, sirens, screams, engines. And if this is your day, you might even catch a car chase or hear a horde of biker boys thunder across a bridge. But it's tough to speak of these things. How tufts of smog enter the body and begin to wind us down. How the city chokes us painfully against its chest made of secrets and fire. How we, built of weaker things, regard our sculpted landscape, water flowing through pipes, the clicks of satellites passing over clouds, and the roof where we stand in the shudder of progress, giving ourselves to the vast outside. Still, text me before you set out. Call when you reach my door, and I will walk you as far as the tracks with water for your travels and a hug. I will watch after you and not turn back to the flat until you merge with the throngs of buses and cyclists heading down the block, scuffing the ground with your feet. Let's remain seated and join together in singing our centering hymn, Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Bring in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Fuente de amor, ven hacia mí, y al corazón cántale tu compasión. Sopla al volar, sube en la mar, hasta moldear la justicia de la vida. Arraigame, libérame, fuente de amor, ven a mí, ven a mí.
Come together each week, grateful for one another and for this community that sustains us. We come together understanding that each one of us experiences life in all its different aspects, the pluses and minuses, the ups and downs. If you have something of a personal nature that you'd like to share this morning with the congregation, a joy or a sorrow, No announcements, please. I will bring you the mic. Please tell us your name and briefly what's in your heart. Joys and sorrows.
Yes, my name is Betsy Vanas, and I'm feeling grateful because of this congregation that has seen me through more than one surgery recently, particularly for Steve, who came at 3:45 at my home to take me up to Lee Hospital, and Patty, who must have driven me about 5 times, even came and got me when the Lee Hospital closed down. It is my family. You are my family because I don't have one. And I thank you all very much.
Hello, my name is Lagaya Bibi, and I want to share a joy, which is that my mom is not here today because she's in the Philippines doing a specialist Fulbright, which is amazing to be at this point in her life and still affecting change on such a large and profound scale. So I think that's pretty awesome.
Thank you, Lagaya.
My name is Diane, and I had a special joy yesterday at the meditation meeting when I had a very brief, close encounter with a little lizard who crawled into my lap before we started. I was totally startled, but gently picked him up and put him in the little plant at the altar.
So, if it shows up during the service, what shall we do?
Call on me. I'll come get it.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Barbara Freeman, and I work on Sanibel, where I used to live, and we've been dwelling on the past year a lot lately on Sanibel, but this past Thursday we had a staff meeting at Big Arts, and the 20 of us, instead of looking back, looked forward, and we opened a couple of bottles of Prosecco and enjoyed the rest of our staff meeting and toasted to the year ahead and a brighter time for everybody.
Thank you, Barbara. So for those of you who don't know, Barbara lost her house during the hurricane 1 year ago this week. Grateful for those things that have been shared, and mindful for each of our journeys and those joys and sorrows that have been left unspoken. Let's settle ourselves into a time of spoken and then silent meditation. These words come to us from Thich Nhat Hanh and his book, The World We Have. The bells of mindfulness are calling out to us, trying to wake us up, reminding us to look deeply at our impact on the planet. The bells of mindfulness are sounding. All over the earth, we are experiencing floods, droughts, and massive wildfires. Sea ice is melting in the Arctic, and hurricanes and heat waves are killing thousands. The forests are fast disappearing. The deserts are growing. Species are becoming extinct every day. And yet we continue to consume, ignoring the ringing bells. All of us know that our beautiful green planet is in danger. Our way of walking on the earth has a great influence on animals and plants. Yet we act as if our daily lives have nothing to do with the condition of the world. We are like sleepwalkers, not knowing what we are doing or where we're heading. Whether we can wake up or not depends on whether we can walk mindfully on our Mother Earth. The future of all life, including our own, depends on our mindful steps. We have to hear the bells of mindfulness that are sounding all across the planet. We have to start learning how to live in a way that a future will be possible for our children and our grandchildren. Let's take some time together in silence.
This piece is called Remember by Joy Harjo. Originally from Tulsa, Oklahoma, Joy Harjo was a member of the Muskogee Creek Nation. She was appointed Poet Laureate of the United States in 2019. Remember. Remember the sky you were born under. Know each of the stars' stories. Remember the moon. Know who she is. Remember the sun's birth at dawn. That is the strongest time of day. Remember sundown and the giving away to night. Remember your birth, how your mother struggled to give you form and breath. You are evidence of her life, and her mother's, and hers. Remember your father. He is your life also. Remember the earth whose skin you are. Red earth, black earth, yellow earth, white earth, brown earth. We are earth. Remember the plants, trees, animal life, who have all their tribes, their families, their histories, too. Talk to them. Listen to them. They are alive poems. Remember the wind. Remember her voice. She knows the origin of this universe. Remember, you are all people, and all people are you. Remember, you are this universe, and this universe is you. Remember, all is in motion, is growing, is you. Remember, language comes from this. Remember, the dance language is that life is. Remember.
We, Homo sapiens, are a migratory species. We have come out of Africa and over many millennia have moved across the globe. We have inhabited the full spectrum of landforms and climates. Wherever we have stayed for any length of time and adapted to the land, we have found an affinity in our surroundings and built up a sense of place. We have established stories, mythic stories that celebrate our beginnings and tell of the trials and exaltations of distant ancestors and their interactions with nature. We have developed elaborate cultures that have sometimes stayed and sometimes strayed from a connection with the land. Earth-centered traditions are rooted in that sense of place, that sense of connection. But it is more than connection. It is an inextricable sense of oneness, of being part of everything that is, the full and sacred circle of life, which includes everything we create, even that which seems antithetical to nature. All is in motion, is growing, is you. Through everyday experience and through ritual and devotional practice that continually connect them to the earth, earth-centered traditions remind us of our inseparability from the seasons and cycles of nature and to the basic elements of existence. There is an Apache expression that says wisdom sits in places. And thus stories from these traditions often tell of what happens when we try to separate ourselves from the land, from our connection to each other and all that is. Some Unitarian Universalists with Native American roots continue to ground themselves in the practice and rituals of their indigenous traditions. And there are UU neo-pagans and Wiccans who draw their inspiration from a variety of sources. They may look to ancient Celtic roots or find meaning in indigenous traditions. They might find inspiration in sources that describe the sacred feminine and the goddess. We'll be exploring a number of these over the next few weeks. Those of our members who lean toward an earth-centered spirituality can offer an important counterbalance to the subtle but yet still pervasive notions of our Puritan forebears, notions of this world as something temporal and nature as something to be conquered or as something to survive. In all the Abrahamic religions, traditional historic views of God create a dualism that we are still working to overcome. Historically presenting God as transcendent when life here is imminent and sometimes overwhelming. A God that is unchanging when we know that life is ever-changing. A God that remains in uniform in nature when we see how incredibly diverse life can be. A God that is pure when life can often be dirty and gritty. A God that is male when life is gender diverse. You can keep going. Think about how a vision of God as white continues to impact our world. Is there any wonder that our culture has such a conflicted relationship with the earth and its inhabitants? But an idealized vision of nature can also create a dualistic view. Think of your special place. Maybe you have something a place in nature that you go to. Is it a place apart? A refuge? Are there other people there? Do you like to share your space? Is it separate from your daily life? Unitarian Universalists have a long history of shattering idolatry, consistently rejecting false understandings of the holy. Yet if we idolize nature, we risk creating a duality that allows us to think in the abstract of nature while still making decisions in our daily lives that might be harmful to the environment. Not being fully mindful of our consumerism or of the things we put in the ground or in the air. Because of her background as Latinx with Spanish, African, and indigenous roots, my colleague in ministry, Marta Valentin, has had to experience our Unitarian Universalist tradition from the margins. And because of that, she can see our fault lines more clearly than most, and she smiles sometimes at our crunchy tendency to set nature apart as something to be romanticized. She writes, "As a real Unitarian Universalist, I feel that I should be writing about nature, something about trees and rivers, or tiny slugs on dahlias munching away with their hundreds or thousands of teeth, wreaking havoc on my non-existent garden. Or maybe about how I get lost in the woods I never actually venture into alone, because to a city girl, they're really scary, with foreign, unidentifiable sounds, not like the knowing rumblings of a yellow taxi passing me by in the middle of the night or the rattle of the train under my feet." But like Joy Harjo, Valentin tries to broaden our understanding of nature. "The kind of nature I want to tell you about," she writes, "is often disguised as culture. The culture of a people and place, and the nature of a people and place are to me one and the same. The indigenous nature of my people is actually quite comfortable in the woods. The African nature of my people is colored by the roots in the motherland. My Spanish heritage likes to mess with the culture of those they want to conquer." Valentin adds that she still has some forgiveness work to do on that part of her. But our point is, I think that we need to find a more social understanding of nature, which includes human nature and our connections with one another. Unitarian Universalists have long been criticized for their individualism and their over-intellectualizing. The sociologist Robert Bellah writes, however, "When we celebrate our individual conscience, it can easily lead to the idea that humans are nothing but self-interest maximizers, and the devil take the hindmost. In that version, it is that version," he writes, "that we see all around us. I don't think we can challenge that version until we come to see that the sacredness of the individual depends on our solidarity with all being, not on the vicissitudes of our private selves. Remember, you are this universe, and this universe is you." We are challenged to fully embrace the idea of the interdependent web, wholly and not just intellectually. That language has come to us over the last few decades as part of our principles, our 7 principles of Unitarian Universalism. But we do tend to intellectualize. we know that that idea can shatter what may be our culture's most hurtful idolatry, the separation of the sacred from the realities and wonders of this life. Another colleague of mine, Abi Janamanchi, who served just north on the Gulf Coast some years ago, wrote, "The sacred is present and available to us whenever we look and are willing to find it. The sacred is connection to oneself, one's faith, world, universe, cosmos, or God. We experience this sense of connectedness by leading a life of awareness and extending loving attention to the most minute particulars of our lives and our relationships." We who consider ourselves rational human beings, and I certainly count myself in that category, we who are capable of separating ourselves from history because it happened at another time and another place, we who are practiced at busyness and being too much in our heads, certain that we've got most things figured out, we who are capable of separating ourselves from nature because we've conquered it, we who can live in cool comfort when it's 100 degrees outside, or can live in cozy warmth when the temperature goes below zero, we who can eat strawberries in the middle of winter and have ice at our fingertips in the middle of summer. We can risk missing things of importance, can hold pieces of our whole selves at bay, can fail to see the sacred in the ordinary. Janamanchi writes that by being attentive, we not only experience the sacred, but are inspired to participate in the healing of our communities, our world, and our planet. We become especially aware of ourselves and the truth that we are part of something greater than ourselves, whatever that something greater is called. The sacred circle of life contains all of us, all of what we can experience, all of what we create. There is no separation. The disconnect is in our minds.
As we, there. As we take time to reflect on today's words and music, let's also take time to show our gratitude for this community and all that it does. The morning's offering will be gratefully received. If you're watching this on TV, please consider sending a contribution today. The information that you need in order to donate is right on the screen. We have a few reminders of what's happening this week at UUCGN before we get to sing again. Thank you to all of you who participated in the congregational survey. The board will be reviewing the information gathered and establishing next steps, which will include one-on-one and group conversations during the next few months. Rehearsals for the UUCGN choir begin this Thursday, October 5th at 6:30 p.m. If you're interested in finding out more about the choir or would like to join, please contact Sean Allison. There are some things that will be put out in the lobby after the service for anyone that might want them. There are some CDs of Richard Bosworth and some of the 2019 photo directories, and some VCR tapes on various subjects. Anything that is left over will be sent to Goodwill after today. And now, let's rise in body or spirit and sing our closing hymn, number 163 in the hymnal, gray hymnal, For the Earth Forever Turning.
For the earth forever turning, for the skies, for every sea, for our lives, for all we cherish, sing we our joyful song of peace. For the mountains, hills, and pastures in their silent majesty, for the stars, for all the heavens, sing we our joyful song of peace. For the sun, for rain and thunder, for the seasons' harmony, for our lives, for all creation, sing we our joyful praise to thee. For the world we raise our voices, for the home that gives us birth. In our joy we sing, returning home to our blue-green hills of earth.
By being attentive, we not only experience the sacred, but are inspired to participate in the healing of our communities, our world, and our planet. We become especially aware of ourselves and of the truth that we are part of a great circle of life, something far greater than ourselves. Go in peace, go in love. Have a wonderful day.